we've been in this space for some time as Workpay, we've seen how different complexities and compliance gaps have cost different businesses. We've seen companies go under because of minor errors within payroll. And I'd like to tell you a bit more about why this information is important to us. But just to set the stage, I think you can see my screen, and you can see very different things on your left. Penalty issued in Nigeria, pay mismatch in Kenya, missing TIN in Uganda, wrong pension in Ghana, delayed salary in South Africa. And I want you to think about this even as the conversation goes on, as one of the complexities managing payroll in different countries can pose to you as a business, pose to you as a business leader, or somebody who manages the business or the finance function of any business. And the conversation is really, how do you navigate this? Because this is not something that is unique to one organization. It is something that we've seen across different organizations, big or small. And I'm happy that our speakers for today will come to talk about in depth. And just to the speakers of today, we have two amazing speakers from Workpay. One of them is Joshua. Joshua is our senior manager for global payroll operations. And I think much more than anybody else, he has seen the different failures across nearly every African market, and he knows where the bodies are buried. So when it comes to questions of compliance, it comes to questions of payroll calculation, he can be able to tell you about any statutory update that has gone out at any time. And he's been very, very instrumental. He'll be very instrumental in this conversation in helping us know what are the loopholes when it comes to processes. We also have Max. Max is Maxwell Oyaki, who is our engineering manager. He's really the person who's helped build the system that would either prevent or, help you create problems. And he's here to tell us why technology alone is not the full answer. And based on this conversation and what we envision to achieve from this together as an organization, we hope that you can be able to help you or your organization, again, achieve the same based on what you learned from this session. But before we hear from them, I want to ground this conversation on a few realities that you're seeing globally, and also to help you, to let you in on why this conversation is important to us as Workpay. So just last month, some industry data from some global payroll studies and firms like KPMG made a few things stand out very clearly for us, and it really got our attention. First, employee pay or salaries typically make up to 40 to 60% of total operating expenses, which means that payroll is no longer a small operation for us to allow errors within it. And if this is one of the largest cost centers for any business, then it also becomes one of the largest risk factors for the business. And we need to look at it differently. So if you ask yourself today how much of your business is exposed just through payroll, and do you really have visibility of any of the errors that could affect payroll, and hence exposing 40 to 60% of the value of your business? That should make you quite uncomfortable. We've also seen a lot of organizations, spending 2 to 4% of that spend, of their payroll spend every year to payroll leakages. And this is money that you're seeing being lost through errors, different inefficiencies, and different gaps in compliance, because we are not privy to different statutory changes, and we don't understand how differently this could affect our payroll. And this will really translate into actual money lost by businesses, which, according to this study, showed between $1 to $5 million each year lost due to payroll errors alone. And this is a global study. And this begs the question that if this is how much we are losing, or businesses are losing because of payroll errors, are they avoidable? And finally, despite all these different facts, we have over 50% of payroll teams still relying on manual processes, like spreadsheets at some level. And the truth is, as companies grow and they expand to different countries, these processes become larger. They don't just, when you scale, the processes also scale with you, and the risks become larger as you expand across different multiple countries. And really, that is at the heart of our conversation today. So we hope that even as we have this conversation, at the back of your mind, you have a good understanding of why this is important to you, to your business, to the cost or the money that you could probably be losing, and most importantly, even to your employees. Because every time you run payroll in a year, if you got it right 11 times and you only got it wrong one time, they will always remember the one time you got it wrong. So the cost of getting it wrong is so high that you cannot have it, you cannot take it lightly. So as Workpay, why we are positioned to have this conversation is because of our offering and what we are able to give businesses when it comes to solutions to payroll compliance across Africa. And I'd like to take a minute just to introduce Workpay to anybody who does not know about us and our offering. At Workpay, we support businesses to manage payroll across all African markets, especially if they start operating in more than one country. We've seen a lot of complexities come up as companies scale into different African markets. And this is because of the differences between the statutory regulations within those countries. And the goal here is to make it easy for these businesses. Because we have seen this with different companies. So we're supporting over 2,000 employers to support their employees across Africa. So we typically do this in three main ways. And number one is through our payroll outsourcing solution. This is where we give you multi-country, or you outsource your payroll services to us, and we support you in payroll operations, compliance, and statutory filing under Workpay's management team. We have a dedicated team of experts in both compliance and legal to ensure that we have closed all the loopholes that could come with, statutory breach. The number two solution is our SaaS platform. This essentially is for organizations that still want to keep their payroll operations internally, and they want to buy the software. So this software is built on a very robust system, and I know Max will be talking a lot more about it, that allows you to run payroll without the worry of statutory compliance, because we are always working on it to get real-time data and updates, to get real-time reports as a HR or a payroll expert, and to also help your employees interact with their HR and payroll data. With this platform, you're able to also process salaries across different countries and pay your employees instantly. And our main product is the employer of record as a service. This is where we help organizations hire without a local entity. These are for organizations that are looking to get into markets faster. Time is not on their side, but they really want to leverage on the opportunity, the business opportunity in those countries. Ours is to help them legally hire and manage and pay employees across Africa without the need of setting up a subsidiary within those countries. And because of that, this allows us to have this conversation from a place of both experience and expertise, and to give us the confidence to say that if you're having a compliance conversation, that we have seen it and we have experienced it all. And I would like to kickstart that very short and long conversation with a poll, because I would want to get a sense in the room to understand, do you know what your biggest risk is? Because it's not just about what we are doing on a day-to-day, that there are very different risks that businesses may face. Are you confident that your payroll is fully compliant across all the markets you're operating in? And I'd like to start this poll. You can see it up. This is just to give us a sense of the room and to guide the conversation, especially for Joshua and Maxwell before they start the conversation. Well, I like what people are saying. They are quite confident. So would you say that you're fully confident, somehow confident that there are some gaps that you don't want to close in on? Are you not confident at all? Are you relying on, manual processes? Are you also unsure that you don't have any visibility? And I think this really sets the pace for us to say that we are moving the conversation in the direction that you want to see it. I appreciate those who have voted in. Please tell us how confident you are that your payroll is compliant across the markets, even as we begin our conversation today. I can see about 50% of you have voted, but allow us, because of time, so that we have time to have the entire conversation to publish the results. And as you can see, most of you are very confident that they have visibility. But as part of this conversation, you'll be able to see how differently these conversations, these loopholes or different risks can expose you as a business. So allow me to usher in our speakers, and I'll start with a question, and I want to start with you, Josh, because I know part of this really squarely lies on processes. And my first question to you would be, I know most organizations only realize payroll is broken when a crisis hits. So how does payroll risk actually cost organizations operating across Africa? Why do most only find out when it's too late? This question, Josh.
Thank you very much, Jess, for the very comprehensive introduction and actually for sharing the numbers that you shared earlier. And I think from those numbers, we can see that payroll errors are not just mere things that we talk about. Just say it's an error and wrap it off. We'll see it next month. We've actually seen those numbers actually talk about the true cost of payroll in an organization. And actually, I think you mentioned between 2 to 4% is payroll leakages that cost an organization. So what that means is that if we take $1, that means 60 cents of that $1 is not even your profit. It's just pure operational cost. And more, 2 to 4% of that $1, you lose it in terms of payroll leakages. So you can see actually, if you start comparing this, if you start looking at this number deeper and deeper, realize that payroll is not just something you should take lightly, and it's something that can actually impact an organization in a very big way. Because on top of that statistic that you shared, I think they placed a number between $1 to $5 million in terms of what payroll costs most organizations annually. That's a lot. And so it actually informs us of the true scale in which payroll can actually cost an organization. And when you're talking about a continent like Africa, where we have like 54 African countries, each country operates on a different set of laws. Each country has its own rules and regulation and how things are run by different organizations and departments. You'll start to understand that payroll is more complex than just what you are able to see on the surface. Where you say, I have 10 employees, good enough, I'll just deduct whatever I need to deduct and pay the rest of the authorities. And for a company that has footprints in different jurisdictions, then they're up for a very big task in terms of, first of all, coordination, getting inputs, coordinating all inputs from the different countries, the timelines for such.
Sorry, I think there is a technical glitch with Joshua. But as he was saying, he was talking about the different payroll errors that we've seen across different countries. Maybe we can give him a minute and see
across the world. And you'll find there's an issue in one country, and as you try to solve that, there's an issue, just like you had shared in the initial presentation, where one organization has several issues in different countries. You might be able to sort a few of those, but the ones that will not be able to sort in time, they'll start creeping. And over time, you will notice that the damage, repairing that damage is way too expensive, and you'll be hit by authority. So for example, they start auditing you, they'll notice 2 years ago, you had an employee, you did not file their taxes, and now they'll start demanding for those taxes for those months that the employee or years that the employee worked. And on top of that, accumulation of penalty for those months. And on top of that, there's interest on those penalties. So when you start to look at it, you might say, yeah, I have visibility on my payroll. But now when you start digging deeper in terms of looking at payroll as just from an organization point of view, you'll start to notice that, yeah, it's more complex. It requires a proper approach to it, and not just one of those things that you a checkbox, and you really need to strategize when it comes to payroll and employees at large. Back to you, Jesse.
Thank you so much, Josh. I think you set a very good picture of what it would look like for organization from a cost perspective. And I think the numbers we were looking at have just gone a long way to validate that. And I think I'm curious, and this comes to the tech side of, or really the other side of payroll. And Max, I would want to hear from you. Why do you think payroll systems appear to be working quietly, accumulate risk, and what does that look like from an engineering perspective?
Thanks a lot for that, Jess. It's largely because of a facade, which I can probably group into maybe like 3 sections. The very first one is around something probably...
Jess, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
I am the one who's speaking. Max, Jess, can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, Max, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry, Josh. So as I was saying, it's largely a facade that I can be able to group into probably like 3 categories. The very first one is around the calculation myth. So, or something that I'd call the calculation myth here, where just because the system was able to calculate and provide an output, you would expect that the output would be correct. At the end of the day, computers do exactly what we tell them to do. So if I give an example, if net pay is wrong, like the net that an employee receives is wrong, there's a very good chance that the calculation itself that started from your basic salary or your gross salary, depending on what your salary reference is, arrived to the net correctly. But what if you were exiting this employee and leave pay was wrong, right? So a payroll engine can compute perfectly and still produce the wrong outcome. And this is because the problem wasn't in the calculation, the problem was upstream. Before any calculation, salary must be correct, the tax profile must be correct, things like benefits, deductions, effective dates for certain bands need to be correct. If any of those inputs are wrong, the process will, whatever engine you're using will be able to compute and provide you an output, but that output is going to be wrong. The biggest problem here is, and within the computation myth here, it's usually not about the payroll computation itself, is that there is a gap in data governance that is kind of wearing a payroll mask, right? The data is wrong, and therefore regardless of how you do the computation, the output is going to also be wrong. The other thing is around silent risk. So again, unless the correct guardrails have been put in, or there's a correct process, whether automated or manual, the system in question would probably not tell you that net pay is wrong. Why? Because the system probably also doesn't have context of how leave pay was supposed to be calculated, or some other pay that was supposed to be calculated that is meant to be computed and provide you to the final outcome, which is your net. So if you have any outdated logic, if there are things that are handled manually, so hard-coded formulas, or you do not have a process internally to be able to ensure that updates are real-time like we do within Workpay, you will have this silent risk where things would be going wrong, but you really don't know. There's some legislation that was changed, and you are perfectly continuing running your payroll system, and come to the end of the year, you have arrears that you owe people just because you weren't aware that something changed silently and no one flagged it. And then the final one, as to why payroll systems can appear to be working quietly, but I think the accumulating risk is if a system lacks, if a system doesn't use compliance as evidence, it will be very difficult to be able to explain exactly what or how you arrived to numbers. So every payroll system needs to be able to explain how it landed on a certain number. It doesn't really matter how small that number is, it needs to be able to explain. A difference in a few shillings for a company that has 5,000 employees would mean either the business has gone a loss because they've paid so much money out, or the business has incurred some sort of risk because they owe employees money. Payroll systems need to be able to have compliance baked in, and they need to be able to use this compliance in addition, obviously, with some other great architecting to be able to ensure that they can explain how they arrived at the inputs. And this is not only just around calculation, it's also around process. So who approved what? When did they approve it? When was a particular value changed? Right? You can be able to look at an audit log or a trace log and be able to trace exactly when an input was changed, which resulted to an output becoming different. So a system ideally that cannot be able to explain its output isn't really a payroll system. It's kind of like a fancy calculator that you can be able to use and lie to yourself that you have a payroll system. And I think those categories of reasons would be why, in my experience, I would say that you could have a payroll system that is working, but behind the scenes things are going wrong, and you will not be able to find out up until probably it's too late for your organization.
Thank you, Max. I think I would want to ask a question as a follow-up to what you shared, because we've seen different layers within the risks of payroll errors from a system perspective. And I would want you to touch slightly on employee data and how it's handled when it comes to systems and helping businesses understand. And maybe Josh could also mention about the compliance aspect of how employee data is kept and handled when it comes to different payroll systems, exposing businesses to different risks.
So I can start off. Some of the most confidential information out there in the modern age is employee information, because you start off from biodata, there's banking information, there's very private information about your family members, next of kin, depending on the organization, there's your private documents that you need to be able to provide, identification documents, and even based on the jurisdiction, there's places where you'll be required to be able to provide your driving license and all of this other information. If there are any tax benefits that you get from either being in a committed relationship, so if you're in a marriage, you need to be able to provide some of the certificates, depending on the jurisdiction. So Employee information, depending again on the jurisdiction, it could be very minimal, and it could also be pretty a lot, right? If you have a system that does not have data governance in place, a system that is not certified to be able to hold customer data like Workpay is, or a system that doesn't have certain industry standards, like being, for instance, ISO 27001 certified, right? Which just means that there is a process. We follow the industry standard on how to be able to do change management on the platform, and also handle customer data. So if you have a product or a system or a tool that doesn't have data governance baked in, it's a very huge risk to the organization and to the employees themselves. If you do not have approval workflows for how data is changed, it creates a lot of very huge risk. So if someone changes an employee's salary value, right, directly without the correct approval, and you end up having the wrong output in payroll, if that did not start from the employee's contract being changed and the value on the contract actually being changed, it means that down the line, could end up having potentially a case in court, in labor laws, trying to be able to fight this, because there is mismatch between the value that is in the contract and the value that is in the system that was used to be able to compute the employee's salary and finally what landed in their bank account. So we take data management very seriously. Data is ideally bread and butter within Workpay, right? It is the thing that allows our customers to be able to have the outcomes that they need, manage your employees and pay them on time, right? Without data, we cannot be able to process payroll. With wrong data, you can still be able to process payroll, but have the wrong output. So we've put in quite a bit of guardrails to be able to ensure that we collect data in the correct way, we clean it up in the correct way. So if you put the wrong phone numbers, we'll be able to tell you. If you put in the wrong sequence, for instance, somewhere in some KRA number or tax identifying number, we can be able to tell you that tax identifying bodies require them to be alphanumeric. There's all of these guardrails that we've been able to set in the collection, processing, managing of this data to be able to ensure that you have reliable outputs when you process payroll. I hope that answers the question, Jess.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I don't know whether there's anything you want to add to that, Josh.
No, I think Max has been very comprehensive in his response, and maybe just to add on top of his earlier point in terms of when he was talking about having a system that is very vibrant and can catch up to statutory deductions. So just to give you a scale, like this year alone, I think we have had more than 15 statutory changes across different countries, across 15 countries actually, just in Africa. So if you are doing things maybe from Excel, chances are you are going to miss one statutory here and there. And over time, this will catch up with you as an organization. And it just shows you how much also investing in systems, just like Max has stated, is very important for an organization.
Thank you. And maybe I would have wanted either of you to talk about how these risks are really become larger when companies are scaling, when your management is beyond one African country, to try and bring it home, because some of these errors, we've seen them multiply, because the thing is they compound over time. It's not something that you wake up one day and you're able to solve all of them, because these changes also are very ad hoc. I don't know whether Max or you, Joshua, can speak about multi-country management and how that could lead businesses into certain pitfalls.
Yeah, I can speak to that, and maybe just to give you an example, you're a company that is just trying to enter in the early phases of your, the early stages of your company, and you've been
Sorry, Max, maybe you can try to. Max, you can try take that as Josh is fixing his internet issue.
Cool, thanks a lot. Multi-country payroll and multi-country operations, generally speaking. We can look at this from a payroll angle, but it's largely from scale operations perspective. This is going to affect anyone as you scale whatever it is that you're doing across different jurisdictions. So I'll give an example with one of the challenges that we had early on. About 6 or 7 years ago, when we were working on the very fast engine, we were only in Kenya. That meant that we only needed to be able to care about tax laws in Kenya. And even then, things were still very challenging to be able to do, because as legislation changed year to year, we needed to be able to customize a lot. So, but the example here is that we were in Kenya, we had coded, right? There wasn't a way to be able to quickly change the rules that we had set. When the tax bands, the revised tax bands were there, we had fixated them, and changing them would have required quite a lot of work to be able to do that. Now, one of the things that we ended up doing is we ended up trying to be able to think about, so if we need to be able to scale across the continent, and we needed to be able to do this efficiently, effectively, with a reasonably sized team and with the power of innovation on our side, how would we solve this problem? And we ended up working on an engine or a solution that allows us to be able to move into any market in ideally a matter of days, as opposed to a matter of months. Now, the challenge here for a lot of businesses is you will have too many things to be able to keep track of, or if you need to be able to solve that, you'll probably end up ballooning the team that you have, that you need to be able to keep track of all of this. Whether that be it end up having a very huge team of HR professionals and accountants to be able to keep track, or outsourcing this to some sort of agency that, again, behind the scenes is either using a platform like Workpay, or they just have manpower to be able to track this. The biggest problem about scaling from one country to the other, it's not just about just adding a few more employees and paying in different currencies. It's you need to be able to understand the labor laws within that country. You need to be able to understand what the business liability is. If you have an employee and they need a tax benefit because they are married with 3 kids, and because that jurisdiction says that they get some sort of tax exemption, if you do not know about this and you do not bake this in the payroll, or your provider does not know about this, there's compliance risk on your side. So you just think that, oh, okay, I have an insurance business. Our insurance business has grown very well within Kenya. We want to be able to move on to another country. Yeah, it's totally fine. It's going to be easy moving into those other countries. But if you do not understand, or you do not have a partner that helps you understand all of the legal risk and compliance risk that you'll be incurring just by hiring those employees in said country, you put yourself in a position where you would end up facing quite a bit of risk around being sued, losing money, or generally having really poor employee satisfaction. I think that's the biggest risks in my perspective when companies scale their operations from one country to another.
Thank you so much, Max. And thank you, Josh. I know you had attempted this, but allow me to go to the next part. I know we'll have a chance to talk about this, but I know we've heard how payroll can run correctly, but still produce the wrong outcomes. And I'm curious to hear, where do you think the risk is sitting in your current setup? I know some of you, or most of you, have existing setups within organizations, but I'm curious to know, and I would request that you also take part in our next poll to let us know where you think the biggest risk in your current payroll setup is. We've heard about all those different risks. Again, to help us inform, to help us also better understand some of the risks that could also be unique to some companies and are not unique to others. So are you saying that you have challenges in keeping up with compliance? Is it managing in multiple countries? Are you talking about data accuracy and approvals? Or do you have system limitations? And I think all of these issues have been tackled by our speakers today so very well. So please continue letting us know what it is that you are struggling with. What is the biggest risk in your current payroll setup? Even as we go on with this conversation to help us, move to the next stage. But even as we are voting in, please make sure that you vote in. We will shortly share our results. But I would want to kick us into the next space, and I would want to have a question. This is specifically to you, Josh, and I would want to understand what are some of the solutions that we would look into from an operation side. And my question to you is, what does it actually take to manage payroll reliably across multiple African countries, and where do most organizations underestimate the complexity?
Thanks, Jess. And sorry, I had some technical issues. But to go to your question, where organization underestimate the complexities, I believe that most organizations underestimate the complexities in terms of operations, in terms of administrative coordination. And by administrative coordination, I mean not every country, everything is automated. Not in every country, everything is as simple as it may sound. So just to give you a brief of the administrative challenges that might be faced by an organization. If you're a South African country, filing statutories in South Africa is very easy. It's just one body that collects all the statutory deductions. But scale that, go to another country. Let's just pick a country like Kenya, for example, where you have different statutory deductions and different bodies that collect those deductions. So you have like our Kenya Revenue Authorities collecting the pay and the housing levy and the training levy as well. But you will have to file Social Security under the National Social Security Fund, and you have to file SHIF under the health administrators. And you'll end up understanding that it's the complexity is not even in the computation. Payroll is not just a formula. It's a matter of just understanding that beyond the payroll, beyond the formulas, there is also the operational bit. There's also the administrative bits. We find in countries where actually you have to file things manually. Not every country has automated systems where you can file online. You have to have guys on the ground actually going to those offices, going with a check and filing. You may decide to use a vendor, but what happens with a vendor is that you have to trust them. It now becomes a business of trust. And I don't think the stakes are, any organizations want to work on trust. They want to work on things that have been proven, tested, solid systems. So the complexities, the organization tend to underestimate the complexity in terms of those areas. And when it comes now to stuff like operational, beyond the administrative, you'll find like you'll end up placing your payroll to be run by one person. And down the line, people are people, the person might leave or they might get sick. And what happens to the continuity of business and operations? You don't have anything documented or a system that could guide you through the processes, something that is centralized and you can use across all your jurisdiction. So those are the kind of areas where people and organizations tend to underestimate the complexities of payroll, because most understand that payroll is just formulas. Payroll is just paying people, but there's more to that, because as an organization, we're actually an agent of most of these government bodies that collect. You are an agent. The burden of collection is placed on you, and not many organizations tend to see that side. And down the line, you'll end up with a lot of either operational chaos and penalties on top of that that might cost you financially, and you'll expose the companies to a lot of unnecessary reputational risk, operational risk, financial losses, just because you underestimated the power of payroll and the people. So what reliability actually requires when it comes to payroll, you must invest in organizations that understand the processes, understand the administrative work that comes with payroll, companies that will give you visibility of what is happening and at any point in time, companies that can make you as an organization be very audit ready, such that if you be audited, it's very easy for you to prove, because in any case, the burden of proof always lies with the employer and not the employee. So you have to make sure you have all your data. Just like Mark says, you have to make sure that you have all your data ready. You are audit ready. In case of anything, your processes are solid, and you are, in case of anything, your business continuity will not be affected because of simple operational challenges that you might have overseen. So that's where companies like Workpay come in. So we are designed, we're not just a tool, we are an infrastructure, and we come in to give you a one-stop shop where whichever problem you might be facing, should it be you're a company that is trying to enter into a new market, you're a company that's trying to solidify your operations and ensuring that you're focusing on your core business, and any other task you are outsourcing, we are here to help you on that. We are a company that will help you scale your operations, not beyond your main operational country. We make it easier for you to scale, because we take on the burden of the operational bits and let you focus as an organization on your core business, and it will be very easy for you to scale up and enjoy the fruits of outsourcing or relying on an infrastructure like Workpay. Yes.
Thank you, Josh. You actually mentioned something that I would have wanted to mention, but just allow me to publish the results of our previous poll, where we asked what is the biggest risk in your current payroll setup. And most of you have talked about keeping up with compliance updates. I think it's been shared in depth how important it is to keep up because of the fragmentation of the African market, to say that each country has its own regulatory landscape and you must keep up with the changes that come in. We've also seen quite a number struggling with managing in multiple countries, which again, as Josh has mentioned, is something that we can really help you with. Data accuracy and approvals, again, something we can assist you with because we have a system that helps in data validation and the approval, setting the necessary approvals. Also the system limitations or manual processes, really think that has been one of the biggest problems that we've seen with businesses across Africa. So thank you so much for participating in that. And allow me to take my next question to Maxwell. Maxwell, I would want to know, when as we look to wind up the conversation, what would you say separates payroll system, a payroll system that processes correctly from one that can be genuinely trusted? And why is that distinction harder to find or to build than most organizations would expect? Would you like me to repeat that question, Max?
No, I think I was able to get most of it. Pretty challenging one. I'd probably say systems that are able to provide control to the payroll, the person in charge of payroll. And let me explain what I mean by that. Processing payroll is not the same as controlling payroll. As I'd said earlier, a system that cannot be able to explain the number or an output is not a trustworthy system. It's just a calculator, right? So probably to be able to provide an example, a system that cannot be able to tell you that through something like a variance report that the payroll for an employee this month and last month is different, regardless of the fact that there wasn't anything that changed as far as payroll data is concerned, is probably a product that you should be questionable about. The systems that are usually able to be very trustworthy are those that are able to ensure that you as the customer has visibility, or you as the user has visibility around how the outcomes were arrived at. You can be able to see your audit trail very well. You can be able to see how payroll data changed over time. You can be able to even read the report from left to right. So those of us who are probably from Kenya, would be a very easy report. You can be able to read it from left to right, where you have gross on this side and you have net on the other side. And you can be able to even yourself do very simple calculations and arrive up to the same number. The systems that are able to demonstrate trust are those that are able to provide the customer visibility and control. And it's very challenging to be able to build this. Again, keep in mind that you have operations that you need to be able to run, and you have a certain role to fill in the company that you're in service of the business or the customers that you guys have. If you do not find the correct partner that is able to pick up this burden and legal risk from you, that is able to provide you the visibility that you need, that is able to provide you the control that you need, such that if there's some attendance data that does not sync, or there's an approval that is missing, or there's a statutory report that is failing, the system is able to surface this before you are able to complete payroll. Or the system is able to provide you tools to be able to discover this before you file. For those of us in Kenya, filing dates, I think the deadline is tomorrow for April. If the system that you are working with cannot be able to tell you that, or cannot be able to give you certain reports for you to be able to audit them in time before you end up doing filing, and even provide them in the format that the filing body requires, is a system that, again, over time will end up eroding your trust on its reliability. And it's pretty challenging being able to do this. It's why we've taken quite a bit of time within the last 6 or 7 years to be able to get to a point where we have something that is reliable and scalable. Is it doable? A lot of people can be able to do this, but it is very difficult. There's a lot of legislation that needs to be understood. That's why we work with people like Josh. That's why we have a whole legal team that helps us even within engineering. It's not just about having a calculator. It's having a calculator that provides the customer the outputs that they require so that they do not fall into the risk of not being compliant with tax bodies. So the system that's, just to summarize this, just as I said, processing payroll is not the same as controlling payroll. And a trustworthy system is a system that gives you control and provides you visibility. Those are the systems that win, and it's very difficult to be able to do that. Even as a payroll provider, it's very difficult to be able to do that if you do not have the expertise or you do not have the correct team that is in the ground that figures out all of this legislation beforehand and bakes it into the system.
Thank you, Max. And I actually like, because you've talked about a couple of things that are unique about our system, and I think I would want to dig deeper into that with individuals who would be interested to see how we've built our Workpay system. But this leads us to our final question before we start taking the question and answers from the Q&A session. And if you have any question that you'd want our panel to answer today, please feel free to drop it on our Q&A session. We will get to them shortly. We can already see quite a number that have already come in, and we'll be with them shortly. And this final question is to you both, and I would want you to give me a bit of a succinct answer, because we've seen quite a lot within, now that we have AI leading building for businesses, and we've had conversations with companies that are looking into, building their own internal software aided by AI. And I would want to know, with AI making it faster than ever to build internal softwares, the build versus buy conversation has really changed, especially for payroll, because organizations feel that they can do this. Would you say that they are walking into a more expensive version of the same problem, or do you think they are solving for anything by building for themselves? And I think I would want to start this time round with you, Max, from an engineering perspective. What would your advice be to organizations that are looking at buying versus build?
Okay. I love this AI question. We are all bombarded with AI right now. And even within engineering, being someone who has built my life's work around working with computers and building software, and all of a sudden there are all these tools that can be able to do things that I took quite a bit of time to be able to learn. So yeah, this is well within my space. Here's what I'll say, and this is not the very first time I'm saying this. AI makes building faster. I don't think we can be able to deny that. But it does not make responsibility disappear. Being able to write code and you see a blue button and you click it and something happens is just one part of the story, right? The outcome is, and on the other side, the responsibility, that's the thing that you own up by deciding to be able to build your product. So can you be able to sit down with any of these AI tools and build a calculator? I think you can be able to build a calculator, just like you can be able to use Excel and have a simple calculator, right? Using a bunch of Excel formulas. It has changed the speed of building, but it has not changed the responsibility of owning payroll. The thing that a lot of people will not see in the immediate is all of the decisions that they will now start owning by the fact that they decide to build internally. The fact that you decide to build internally means that you need to be able to protect the data of your employees. It means that you are now responsible for tracking effective dates. You are now responsible for tracking different legislations that are changing in different countries. You are responsible for ensuring that if an employee wanted a payslip from last year, they can be able to get it. You are responsible for ensuring that you are able to produce your own reports in your own format. You are responsible for approval workflows and audit trails. And all of these are decisions that you might not see right now with any of the tools that you're using, any of the tools that you're subscribing to. But these are decisions that we have to think about all the time. Even as something as simple as a to-do list application. If all of you, however you track your to-dos, however you track how you need to be able to do this, if you're doing this using software, you have to think about what happens when I click completed. Do I delete this record? Do I keep it for reference so that I can be able to look at it down the line in 3 quarters? What did I do in Q1? Something that is as simple as a to-do list, when you're working on it, there's all of these decisions that you have to take into account. Can I share these to-dos with other people? Do they live on my computer or do they live in the cloud so that I can be able to access them wherever I go? If I needed to be able to share this with someone who doesn't speak the same language as I do, what do I do? If you choose to be able to build these things internally, on the onset, it might look very exciting and you might want to be able to get into it because now you feel there's all of this efficiency that you're gaining. But you will naively be getting into a space where you will be accountable for way much more than you recognize in the immediate. Just like Josh said, one of the things that people do not understand when they're hiring people is that you're like, you have a great idea, you get some money, you put up a business, you get investors, then you start hiring people. The one thing that you do not realize is that you just signed up to be an agent for the government to collect taxes. And if you don't, the government will penalize you, right? So there's all of these decisions that you just absorb by making this simple choice of either starting a company or running a business, or choosing to be able to build software, especially compliant software or software that is required to be able to provide outputs that are supposed to make you compliant internally. That's the biggest risk that I see, that people normally do not see.
Thank you, Max. And I think even from a sales and marketing perspective, there are conversations we've had. I think this would be very valuable to our prospects. Joshua, what would you say from a process perspective would be your take when it comes to the building versus buying?
My take on AI would be like AI is very good at accelerating human capabilities, but personally, I find it contextually short-handed in terms of yes, it can help you build tools that you can use, but when it comes to now the administrative parts, just like I said earlier, we find like it will not assist you with that. The other thing is that it's very good at learning from data, and from that data as well. Let me give you an example. Now, it can consume court cases, but at the end of the day, a human will know this court case has been appealed, but chances are an AI might consume that because it's data, it's there. It can use that to make a decision and the context. AI can also be very good at analyzing the data that you have as an organization, but it should not be used to replace the human in the loop. Because one thing is that payroll can't make strategic decisions as well as humans. It can't help you to network with administrative authorities. Like sometimes you might understand that you might be faced with some legal issues with the authorities, and sometimes you might find that the resolution to that issue is based on your interaction with them. Okay, they might be more lenient on how they handle you, and AI can't assist you with that. So at the end of the day, payroll is very emotive, and when it comes to AI, you're feeding it a lot of sensitive data, and you are not in control of the privacy of that data. And given that payroll is very emotive, that data might land in the wrong hands, and as an organization, you might be faced with some very punitive reputational damages that you may not be able to recover at all. So I would say that we should use AI with caution, especially for companies that want to build. It will not solve your problem entirely. It will just be there to scale up the tools that you're using, maybe help you process things faster, get insights from the data that you have. But the operational bit of it, the administrative bit of it, which make up the majority of now the payroll, and is entirely human. We are still dependent on humans to make certain decisions that might affect an organization when it comes to payroll. So that would be my take on using AI when it comes to building or buying. We should use it for certain things, that learning, getting analytics from data, but it should not be used to replace the strategic decision making and operational work in an organization.
Thank you, Joshua. That was really, really mind-opening, and I think one of the key highlights that I'm getting from here is that as we've had these conversations in the past before, because we've had the AI conversation within the HR space, that AI is good but you must know where you're putting it and what are the risks associated with it, so that you're not just applying AI unknowingly. And I think finally, just to summarize what they are saying, is that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. We've been experts in this for the past 7 years. I've had people with experiences of over 10 years in running payroll across different African countries, and they can be able to both advise you on what are the best practices to when you are considering either building or buying. You can outsource your payroll to us. You can use our payroll software just to ensure that you remain compliant in any African country. And I'd like to go to the questions. And there is one question that has been asked twice. I don't know who would be the best person to talk about stable coins when it comes to payment of salaries, because I know it's a conversation we have also had in the past, but maybe just to give a bit of context for our listeners, we don't have stablecoin as a payroll solution right now, but I think I would want either of you to just speak to it at this point. I don't know whether Max, you'd want to go, or Joshua.
I can speak up. Okay, cool. So stable coins are providing a very interesting way to be able to move money within the continent. So there's a lot of guardrails that are being built right now, and there's I think awesome companies that are providing stablecoin wallets to be able to allow for securely moving money within jurisdictions outside of all of the constraints that the banking ecosystem provides. And obviously, it's part and parcel of our vision around being able to allow our customers to be able to manage and pay their employees on time. So internally, we've been having conversations around how do we go about this. So one of the other things that, and we are well within this space. Currently, we already support internal wallets where employees can be paid to wallets, at least within the Kenyan market. And we are slowly rolling this out to majority of our customers. And we are within the space of trying to be able to think, okay, if we get a customer that is in Madagascar, how can we be able to allow them to be able to pay their employees there on time? So we are having conversations with providers, people who have built infrastructure that we can be able to plug into, so we don't again have to build it. We are also buying certain pieces of this, certain pieces of the technology that we end up serving to our customers. There is conversations ongoing around supporting stable coins. Nothing definitive has again been made, because we need to be able to audit, is there any compliance and legal risk that we will be putting ourselves? Has the space matured enough? Because the banking space has really matured over a really long period of time, right? These guardrails that are being set to be able to ensure that money moving from one point to the another is auditable and can be tracked. So we are considering this. It's very awesome novel technology that a bunch of people are integrating in their products. There's a good chance we could be able to see something about this, but there are no guarantees yet. But it's something that is in consideration within product and engineering.
Mm-hmm. So for my take would be, as you can see, it's very good that Max has actually started that conversation, because as you can see, him being in the tech world, the tech part of things are moving faster than the regulations can catch up. And just to answer your question, yeah, as you can see, Max says there's a possibility. It's a possibility. But for my side now, I look at it at the compliance bit, because there's something called a legal tender. So in most countries, there's what we call a legal tender. The currencies that you must use to settle debts and financial obligations. And one of those, you'll find that stablecoin in most countries is not yet a legal tender. So you cannot use it to settle debts and financial obligations. And remember, when an employee has worked, at the end of the day, the employer owes owes the employee some fine, is obligated to pay the employee. So you might pay them in stable coin, but again, the law might come to bite you in terms of, yeah, you gave them stable coin. It's not a legal tender, so you have not yet paid them. So there's also that risk. And I think from where we stand, the possibility is there. It's just that the laws have to catch up with the technology and bridge that gap. So that at least now the conversion of stable coins and cryptocurrency can be better used to settle things like salaries and also to just trade on a day-to-day basis. So that would be my take. Yes.
Thank you. And I think you have answered a question that had been asked about our ability to handle that legally. I think the ability could be there, but if it's not legal, it's not something that you're able to support at this time. But as Max has said, it's an ongoing conversation because we also have to evolve with the times and the needs. As soon as the regulations catch up with the requirements, then it's something that we also are happy to roll out to the other people. I think I would want to hear a bit more about FX conversion, and I know this could be somebody whose salaries is being paid through Workpay. And Josh, I would want you to speak about it, how we handle forex conversions for employees contracted in foreign currency, how that is converted into local currency for deduction purposes, then converted back. How do we ensure that employees don't incur the losses?
Thanks, Jess, for that. I think this forex conversation it has been quite a concern for many employees and also clients as well. The good thing is that with Workpay, we are able to have it's a multi-currency support system. It can support virtually all currencies in the world. Max and his team have done a very good job of ensuring that we are very robust in terms of FX. So what happens is that you're very visible. What will happen is that you will be able to see the currency, the for FX that has been used to process an employee's payroll. It will always be there. For example, if you're not paid in the local currency, your pay slip will actually be very communicative in that it will show what you've earned in the forex currency versus what the equivalent in local currency is. Because as you understand, in most countries, other than countries like Zimbabwe, taxes are paid in local currency. So whether you are earning USD, at the end of the day, we have to convert it to local currency to be able to file tax. And for every employee who's using Workpay, they'll be able to have all that information. What was your earning in USD? What were the taxes in USD? And what were the local currency equivalent as well? And what was the exchange rate that was used? And we'll be able to track this using the central banks that rates that are available. But it's also very important to understand that since central bank does not, this is one of those information that it's pretty, I always feel like it's information that should be shared out there. Central bank does not transact with organizations like and individuals. It only operates within with banks, and every bank will always have its own markup. Central bank does not regulate that; it regulates the base rate, and there will always be something we call a spread. That is the difference between the buying and the selling as well, and also it will have a markup on top of it. So you might go and check on the CBK and say this is the exchange rate, but it's always important to understand that it might be lower than what you're seeing because of the spread and the markup that banks have added on top of it. So yes, we ensure that organizations and also our own employees across Africa are able to see the both currency, the local and the forex, the foreign currency, and the exchange rate that has been used. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, you have. But if you have more questions, Caroline, please feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to assist you. Maybe just one final question, and before I go to it, I think I would want to launch the final poll. Based on what you've heard and what you've understood from this conversation, I'm curious to hear that if, as your business grows, how you are planning to manage your payroll across the countries. And even as I start this poll, my request is that we take part in this so that we can also close as soon as we are done with the final question. Pamela is asking about maybe, I think this is an expectation question, when she's moving from Kenya to Cote d'Ivoire as an organization. Maybe you can just give her a few pointers of what to expect from a compliance perspective, or maybe she can book a call with our advisory team to walk her through that, but maybe you can just give her some high level advice. Joshua.
Yeah. So Pamela, I think I think this conversation is wider than, and it may take more than a few minutes to respond to you. But just on the surface, the first thing you need to understand is: are you a resident of Kenya? Are you a citizen of Kenya? When you're moving to Cote d'Ivoire, will you be moving to Cote d'Ivoire as an expert or a resident? You need to understand all those dynamics, and also you need to understand whether there's a tax treaty between Kenya and Cote d'Ivoire, so that you don't incur what we call double taxation. Because if you're a Kenyan citizen or resident, what happens is that you're taxed on your global income. So that means the only thing that can save you is the tax treaties that Kenya has with different countries, and those are the kind of things that you need to look out for. And we have a solid legal team here at Workpay that make this transition seamless for you. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll help you with the transition.
Jess?
I am sorry, I have been speaking on mute. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody who's taken time to take part in our polls. I've seen most of you have said that they would want to improve their current systems, which is a good validation of this conversation, because it means that you've identified and understood the different threats and risks to your business based on what you have as a system or what you don't have. There are a few people who are still looking to explore outsourcing payroll, but also a couple who are looking at continue managing internally. If you are looking to continue managing your payroll internally, feel free to consider our payroll software. As Max has said, it's built on the most current it's one of the most current systems built on the most current compliance and regulation policies to help ensure that your payroll remains compliant across different countries. If you also want to have a conversation on how you can outsource your payroll to us, feel free to reach out to us. I'll leave an email at the end of this. This conversation has been recorded so that if you want to go back to it, you can come back to it. Allow me to allow Max and Josh to give a 30-second closing remark before we close this webinar. I'll start with you, Max. Sorry, Max, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My final remark is payroll is just not about producing payslip. It's about producing an output that your organization can trust, experience, and defend. And you need a partner that can be able to allow you to do that year on year, reliable. I think that would be my part.
Cool. I think from where I stand, my parting shot will be payroll for most organizations should not be bragged about that we have the biggest payroll team or we have the best payroll software. It should be about an organization that has placed itself in a situation where they're able to focus on their core business and let proper professionals handle the payroll bit of it, because as you have seen, payroll is very complex, payroll is very emotive, payroll has some very huge financial implications in an organization, and for a company to operate sustainably and profitably, then it needs to trust the right people to handle that part. And also a company that is very open in its operation. They will work with you through the journey. They will work with you through your growth as well. So if you're a startup, we can work with you from an EOR perspective. If you have solid operations, we are able to offer solutions for you. If you want to run your payroll in-house, but you don't want to build your own, we are there to support you as an organization. So feel free to reach out to us. We have a solution for each and every organization, I believe. Yeah, and that will be it from me, Jess.
Thank you so much. If you'd want to learn more about what is available for you as a business, please feel free to reach out to us. Whether you are a mature company that has operations in different African countries, whether you're just looking to scale, whether you want to hire and manage employees in different African countries where you don't have entity, we have solutions for you, and we will be happy to walk you through what that means for you. So feel free to reach out to us on our email, hello@myworkpay.com, or visiting our website, myworkpay.com, and keep it here for the next conversation. We have monthly conversations on matters payroll and compliance across Africa. If you want to be part of this, please make sure that you reach out. We will be sending the recording and some of the talk points from the speakers after this webinar, so that you can revisit and see how differently you can close in on those gaps. Thank you so much for your time. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever you are. Thank you so much to our speakers for your expert advice and for guiding this conversation. I have been your moderator, Jess Wanjohi. Until next time, goodbye.